And moving on right now, ladies and gentlemen, to session 3 entitled Future Proving Malaysia's Energy Needs. As we all know that one of the global mega trends shaping today's business landscape is the rapid advancement of technology with artificial intelligence, automation, and quantum computing driving the charge. These forces happen to be very energy hungry. Global electricity demand is expected to rise at a faster rate over the next 3 years, with Malaysia poised to capture a large share of the data center investment. The country needs to future-proof its energy infrastructure to meet rising energy demand and yet ensure net zero goal to meet. Ladies and gentlemen, we're excited to hear how our national utility is preparing itself for this monumental task. Please join me in welcoming Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Abdul Razak bin Abdul Majid, Chairman of Tenaga Nasional Berhad, up to the stage.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And thank you very much, Tuan Pengacara Majlis. My talk is going to be, I hope, quite sweet rather than madu and racun. I'm trying to turn the racun to something more palatable. Yeah. Anyway, as was introduced by the Juru Acara, I'm trying to take you through this journey of what TNB is doing in trying to prepare ourselves or the country in meeting up with the demands of the energy sector in the not too distant future, the medium to long term. Essentially, I have a few slides that I'll share with you, and I'll give you some kind of insight as to what is happening. Let's take you to the few slides here. Okay, my first show is actually to bring it back to what basically we're doing right now. This is very traditional, has been there for a long time. I'm sure quite a few are quite familiar already, but some may not be so. But nonetheless, for those even who are familiar, let me say that this is going to change quite rapidly. Going forward, no longer do we have a traditional generation sector here, where we have multiple fuels or traditional technologies and mixed with renewables to try and power up the generation sector. Of course, you have the pylons around the country to transmit, and you have what we call substations to try and bring down the voltage to enable distribution at the various customers, whether it's commercial, light industrial, distribution, retail. Okay, you can see all sorts of customers right there. And that's how we are being structured today and what the delivery system is all about. Just to give you another bit of a flavor here, this is how the tariff is being designed or formulated right now. Somebody was asking me about tariff during the tea break just now. Look at it, there's 65% is attributed to the generation sector, cost of generation plant and the fuel. Fuel, by the way, is 46, almost 50%, depending on the prevailing market prices when we did the forecast. Then comes how much do we pay for grid, which is about 10% of tariff. Distribution network is about 21% because it's all nationwide. I think this does actually reflect Peninsula rather than the Sabah Sarawak area. And we have the retail. Retail is the people who are down at the floor where you go and pay your bills or used to pay your bills. And these are the people who would do the servicing of customers. And we have what we call the single buyer, who's purely like 0.4%, not much. So it's total up to 100%. But what's important is that this is what we call under the regulatory framework. These kind of numbers are sort of endorsed by the government through the Energy Commission as a regulator. We have just submitted another set of numbers to be effective from January 2005, running up to the end of 2027. So the numbers may change. I cannot tell you very much more, but this is all under very tight scrutiny by the regulator, who will then agree as to what will be the next tariff going to the next regulatory period. Then what's important is that if you look at the right-hand side, we have coal at 57% of our energy mix and gas at 37%. Now that coal portion will have to be converted to something renewable from renewable source. That's not going to be easy because it means that we really have to replace the coal generation facilities with something more so-called friendly, either gas or renewables or whatever that you can think of. Just to give you a little bit more insight, next please. Now, this is what we are doing right now. If you look at the chart as of 2024, thereabouts, we are quite dependent on coal for our generation. Gas becomes the second constituent, then hydro, and very little of renewable energy or non-hydro at the very top, the yellow color. Now, to change this coal component will require massive investment again to bring in a technology like combined cycle to burn gas. Now, that's going to be quite extensive, and it's not that easy because we have contracted out the coal plants for the next 25 years. So it really means that it's not going to happen overnight. We have taken up this policy issue with government and is agreed that we will phase them out as and when we come to the end of the concession, then we will take them off and replace it with some of the new plant, new technology like combined cycle gas plant. Less of carbon emission, but a new investment is required. What is important is that on the right-hand side, whatever we do, whichever combination of fuels or technologies that we employ, eventually we will have to satisfy the triangle at the right-hand side, which means that it has to be equitable, it has to be sustainable, it has to be secure. Secure means that we need to have a reliable and a very secure supply 24/7. No choice. No matter what fuel, there'll be no excuse. I think nobody in this room here will excuse us if we say that because we're going green, we have to jeopardize our principal objective of security of supply. Sustainability means, of course, you try to go green or you try to reduce emission standards and so on. Again, coal emits a high content of CO2. We have to reduce that somehow. Of course, there are ways and means to reduce emissions as we are doing now. We have employed the latest ultra supercritical boiler technology, which is a bit more technical, but what it means is that it is trying to get maximum energy output from a ton of coal compared to the previous technologies. And equitable means it has to be affordable. We cannot simply put on LNG powered power stations because LNG is imported at market prices, world market prices, and they tend to be, for example, like 50 ringgit per million BTU compared to what we get from Petronas at a gazetted price of about 30 ringgit. So the differential is something that will definitely have to be passed through to customers, and you and I will have to pay for it, or must agree to pay for it. Or you think that another government can come in to reduce the price? I don't think so. To me, no matter what color the government up there is, green, black, blue, or whatever it is, you will still have to carry the cost of fuel into the tariff calculation, and therefore it will be reflected in your tariff. Next, what do we have for the future? From 2024 going to 2050, this is a projection of what will happen to the energy mix or the installed capacity energy mix. Right now, we only have about 28% of renewable energy, including hydros, and 72 comes from fossil-based fuels, which means that it's either coal or gas. In 2050, we projected that if we are trying to go net zero, then 70% will have to come from renewable energy sources, and remaining 30% may still be on gas, while we transition out to a fully green by the year 2075 or so. Now, it is not going to be an easy equation, I can promise you that. And you can expect that by the year 2050, the demand for electricity will come up to about 63 gigawatt hours. It means 63,000 megawatt hours. Right now, we're about 24 installed capacity. There's a huge jump of about 2.5 times in the 25 years to come. So you can see the massive investment that will be required, no matter what technology to employ, to get to provide enough supply facilities. Now, let me just check to the cost options. Okay, before we can decide what technologies that we can employ to meet the demand for tomorrow or in the year 2050, you can look at these curves that try to illustrate the cost of planting up this. And I think this is in this levelized cost of electricity, and we're talking about ringgit per million megawatt hours. Hydrogen is still high. No matter what you say, but hydrogen being the new energy source, it is still high up there. Nuclear, battery storage, coal plus gas plus carbon capture, coal plus carbon capture, gas, coal, and then the four bottom ones are rather cheaper to look at, but they are not consistent. They are not available all the time throughout the day. So you will have no choice but to pick up some others which are not so cheap, but yet that will be the base load that we can supply to make sure that demand is always met. Now, just to give an appreciation. So not necessarily, we will run through all these options through our optimization program, and the computer will pick up what will be the best or combination of technologies that will meet the demand for the country. Okay, next. Then we go back to, okay, as was mentioned by YB Rafizi just now, we have, or the government has already launched the National Energy Roadmap, Transition Roadmap, and they have 6 levers and the urgency trying to make the consumption, the generation and consumption as efficient as possible, make use of as much renewable as we can, try to introduce technologies like hydrogen, bioenergy, green mobility, and carbon capture, utilization, and storage. Fortunately, the government has also gone one step lower to try and identify what are the flagship projects that will enable for us to achieve the objectives of the transition levers. They have efficient switching, renewable energy, energy storage, energy secure, green hydrogen, hydrogen for power, biomass, future mobility, future fuels, and CCS for industry. So then the government has also kindly accorded or agreed that TMB should lead, as you can see the blue dots on the left, on the right. Solar park, hybrids, hydros, floating solar, and co-firing hydrogen are supposed to be led by TMB. So we take on this responsibility as government, and we will try to move along on these flagship projects. We are also a partner for the green bullets is residential solar, which means that you can go on and do on your rooftops. And the facilitation is where we participate together with some other companies in trying to make sure that these projects, as identified by government, will reach some level of attainment. Next. Now, looking at the future, what is it that we need to do in order to satisfy this demand problem as well as trying to go green? We need to have a decarbonization policy as much as we can. We need to have to be able to provide democratization, which means that allowing communities and individuals to take on their option or the choice for generation and consumption. Then, fortunately, we have digitalization to help. This is a perfect enabler for us to try and do as much as we can. I will come back to this again, where data, as was mentioned just now, data is becoming a very critical commodity or component of our planning, our monitoring of consumption, our channeling of power and electricity right through the country, etc. The other thing that we need to do once we want to aim for all these good things is the deregulation. The level of regulation today in Malaysia is high. No choice, because this is how it has been structured over the last 30, 40 years. But going forward, in order to loosen up, to enable participation, to enable democratization, to enable third-party access, etc., there has to be a better deregulation or re-regulation of the industry so that you can have a level of participation, and people try to make it as efficient as possible and to suit the particular objectives of the businesses. In trying to translate what was the government's national transition policy, TNB has taken on the next step to say, how do we take on these projects to realize what is intended under the policy objectives? One is to decelerate or accelerate generation decarbonization. As I mentioned, there was a high content of coal in our system today. How do we want to decarbonize? One quick way is, of course, to shut them down, but are we able to replace that with the capacity that will be more friendly? The answer is not so easy, not so soon, right? So we will think of our other options that we can think of. Then we have to develop flexible or cross-border grid. That means cross-border trading between our neighbors, Thailand, Singapore, and Indonesia, if you like, and things like that. And we're looking at ASEAN grid, was mentioned by Prof just now, but that is going to be quite not that difficult, but it is realizable, provided that we can overcome some issues of different levels of regulation between countries, cross-border issues, whether it's customs are coming in to give you some import-export tax, and there are some other considerations we should make sure of. For example, transmission lines within the countries must be capable to take on the capacity that you want to transfer cross-border, okay? And then there's the other issue of empowering cross-border electrification of consumers. Cross-sector electrification, meaning that we go into areas like e-mobility, whether you have a charging network suitable enough or widespread enough to enable car ownership to be going on EV. Great, let me go to a bit more detail of each one of them. What do we do? For decarbonization, we have taken on an option to try and turn down the number of coal plants or level of coal combustion energy that's being channeled in. We're trying to see early retirement of coal plant as much as we can, or coal firing, which means introducing another source of fuel to lower down the cost of the coal that you use in your power plants. Not so easy because we are tied with some commercial conditions under the PPA, which must warrant a certain level of performance in terms of availability and efficiency to the system. Then you have to explore and invest in RE large scale. This is what we call under the NETR. We have given some assignment or flagship projects by government. We're trying to develop this big large scale projects, solar park, for instance, 5 times 100. And we are building this new plant in hydro and also renewing our old plants of hydro. Is trying to hopefully generate a high level of hydro generation. And floating solar is something relatively new. It's being done by some other countries. We are trying to make sure that we are able to sustain a floating solar option. And then we're trying to introduce some more gas plants coming in so that this can easily replace our coal plants as they retire. And expand the RE business and focus on business on new markets, etc. Okay, this will be some of the things that we want to do next on. Okay, we are also trying to move into the ASEAN cross-border, as was mentioned just now. How do we trade in between the ASEAN community? So we're trying to regularize this, trying to talk. We do have a session with Thailand and Singapore and so on to see what are the differences in regulatory procedures that will enable a higher level of transfer between borders, and how do we compare the commercial issues that may have to come along with that. And you can see that what is required is that we have a huge investment of transmission to enable the power to flow from Thailand into Malaysia, into Singapore, into Indonesia, and so on. On the right-hand side, you can see about 90 billion worth of transmission projects need to be put into the system between 2025 and 2030. That's 5 years and 90 billion. Okay, then you can next picture will try to show what we intend to do if we are able to do the cross-border, then across Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, and then you can see all these connections coming in. Hopefully, we can achieve a good portion of this to enable cross-border trades and share resources, especially because in Laos and Vietnam, they have huge resource of hydro through the Mekong River that can flow down to Malaysia and perhaps Singapore. Next, what do we have? Okay, here again is a brief of what is expected. At the bottom there, you can see 130 billion US per annum. This is what Southeast Asia will require in order to step up our policies on green transformation. Right, next. This is quite interesting. What do we do for our domestic front? Demand for electricity, EVs will go up in Malaysia. Final energy consumption will be, we can expect this sort of hike or bump in the energy consumption. Domestic data centers, as you say, we are putting on a very conservative estimate at 6,000 megawatts for over the next 5-10 years. But actually, this can be higher because, as you see in the pipeline today, we have about 100 applications already of data centers that will come into our system very soon. For that, we need to make sure that we'll have enough supply to power up. If each one of them starts at 100 and moving up to 200 or 300 megawatt each, multiplied by today's number like 100, see, you already have 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 easily. This is coming in a very short term, and we're trying to meet the demand. The government has instructed us to do it, do the connection from the date of application to commissioning within 1 year. And here we will take about 4 or 5 years to put up a new gas plant. So that would be the mismatch in timing. Fortunately, we have some reserve margin still available in the system that can take us through for the next 3 years, perhaps. Sorry, maybe I need another few minutes. Yeah. And then we're also wanting to do hydrogen economy, if that is materializing, because that's still at the experimental or laboratory stage. We cannot speak very much of that. But we're talking to people like Tenaga and so who might work on some solutions together. The last one is we're trying to encourage more rooftop installations of solar PV. If you have not, I think you're all enlightened here. You can. I would challenge you. If your bill is more than 600 today, please. It's a time for you to install your PV panels. Otherwise, you're not keeping up for many reasons. Yeah. So for start, I have done it. I think I have done about 11.5 kilowatt of solar panel. I have avoided cost of about 650 ringgit a day. So that's the gauge I have. Say if your bill is there, if you have rooftop sufficient to take 10 or 11 kilowatt, do it now before it gets more expensive. Right. So then I would like to sort of give you this picture. Right. This is what from the previous sketch of what the network was or is now. I would foresee that if you ask people in this room here, what do you think as a future power system, delivery system, nobody can give me an answer, or no two answers will be similar. But we have taken kind of liberty to show you what will happen. Instead of just very restricted TNB, IPP kind of supply regime or generation, you can have multiple owners or multiple purely a democratized system whereby anybody can put up a generation plant, maybe to feed yourselves, or you have excess, you want to sell to the grid, by all means. Then it comes to the lower end of distribution where the multiple input and output will come into play. Here you have, that's what we call the third party access. Once the government they have already announced, formalize and introduce fully the third-party access, I think you have already heard of the tariffs that are already applicable. That will be in the middle part there where the distribution sector will be the one which is really going to change very much from what it is today. And here again, data will come in to try and facilitate a better flow of energy, more efficient, and hopefully it will satisfy 24/7 depending on the tariff that is prevailing on the time, on the minute, or at every quarterly interval. That's what will happen at the lower end of the right hand of the page. The voltage, low voltage solars may be connected to what we call the community electricity storage system. And again, the smart meters, some of you may already have smart meters on your homes. This will be a two-way communication from the center to the homes and from the homes back to the center to tell us how you're consuming, what is your expected load demand, and any other information that can help you to choose your type of consumption, or choose whether you want to switch on your washing machine now or defer it till the night time where the rates may be cheaper. So this is what we think is going to happen. So from energy measurement system, from the generation side, advanced transmission management here in the middle, and the smart meters and so on will try to assist the consumers as to how you might best apply your consumption patterns to suit your business models and objectives. I think this is what the picture of the future may be. It may even go to the point that the good thing about electricity is that every household must have a meter. The meter is a powerful point of connection, point of communication that will enable you to access so many other communication devices around the whole country, whether you want to talk to a retail company or whether you want to talk to transport, booking a ticket, etc. It is possible. You can start up your microwave before you even reach home and cook your chicken. By the time you reach home, it's done. So that's the long-term sort of protection of what electricity supply system might be, apart from supplying you electrons to power up your lights and aircon. Right, I think that may be the end. Oh, so this is quite important. Sorry, give me another 2 minutes. These are the systems or the institutional reforms that must come in order for us to reach the future of the power system, so-called future-proof, if you like. Regulatory and support system must be there. The policy, regulatory support must be there. Government must come in to make sure that the regulations are in place. Then you have the partnership and collaboration. This is quite okay. Diversification of energy mix, we have to allow for third parties to come in. And with this, there's also this new thing called opening up the market operator. Most of you, some of you may be familiar that today, the whole dispatch system is being managed by the single buyer, a ring-fenced unit out of TNB, and it is the power flow is being controlled by the grid system operator. But going forward, these units may be taken off from TNB structure, and they will be the market operator, if you like. Some other countries have already done it, but we are a bit slow, but I think we're moving on towards that direction, whereby the single buyer will be the new market operator and to allow for third-party access and to manage the CREST, as was mentioned just now, and many other innovative ideas that can come into the system to make it more efficient, be more democratic, and of course, the use of a lot more digital and AI techniques. I think maybe that's not okay for knowledge. We really have to build the capacity. There's not much choice. We need to bring up our capacity and capability of our new engineers and technicians in order to meet the demands of industry tomorrow. Right, okay. So thank you very much.
Right, once again, thank you very much to Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri for that most informative presentation. I still need Tan Sri to be on stage for more opportunity. And of course, we would like to invite both Chris and Judy to join Tan Sri on stage for photo opportunity. On a lighter note, I agree with you, Tan Sri, your presentation is more palatable. But then again, on a lighter note, Tan Sri kalau petik, satu Malaysia gelap. Okay, please, for photo opportunity. Right, once again, ladies and gentlemen, let's give him Tan Sri a big round of applause for that very informative presentation from Tenaga Nasional Berhad.